Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Playoffs? Playoffs?
Yeah. Yep.
Playoffs? Yeah, it's that time. On the Talking Bear Football podcast,
Right here on West Branch Football.
Presented by the Browns West Branch family of dealerships.
the postseason is upon us. We will get into that and much, much more. But first, part of that much more is West Branch over Wilton in week 8, 28-12 the final, to solidify the Bears as the runner-up in Class 1A District 5 football. Matt, 28-12, was that a surprise to you, the score? Or was it obviously it's kind of what we'd hoped for, but what were your first thoughts of that score, that performance?
Yeah, I think it was about what we expected. I think the Bears defense, they as good as they are, they weren't going to hold Wilton scoreless, or there weren't going to be plays in that game to where Wilton moved the ball down the field. Because they have some really good players on their offense. Ormsby at quarterback, Hull running back, Kirkman receiver. They did some good things in that game. But I think West Branch just came out better in the situations where it mattered. Some fourth down situations, interceptions, 2 interceptions at opportune times. That defense is the side of the ball that's going to give us a chance in any game moving forward.
I agree. But the offense did some things that it needed to do, Stephen, up front, and mostly including a guy by the name of Andy Henson.
25 carries, 236 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's a pretty good night. Yeah, I think he did his job. I think those 7 guys up front, when you include the double tights, and then the receivers and stuff too. Yeah, it was just a night where, you look, the opening drive of the ball game, we go 10 plays or 8 plays and just chunked it out on the ground. Boom, 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 boom. Got down the field and scored a touchdown. So, yeah, we did the things we needed to. Honestly, we had, looking at my sheet, we had 8 drives. If you take away 2 plays right before halftime and 1 play right at the very end of the game, or 2 plays right at the end of the game, so basically the last 40 seconds of each half. So we had 6 drives. We had 4 rushing touchdowns, and then twice we got down inside the 30. We just happened to turn it over on downs. And it was not like it was a 4th and forever. It was 4th and manageable, and we just came up just short on those. So, yeah, the offense moved the ball up and down the field, and we said it during the game, as we get into week 9, which is the first round of the playoffs, week 10, week 11, and beyond, you got to make sure that you're capitalizing on every opportunity that you get, because the defenses are going to be a lot tougher. The offenses are going to be a little bit tougher, putting more pressure on your defense. And you just have to make sure that you take advantage and you really cherish each time you have the ball and make the most of it.
Well, here's a good stat that kind of goes into that. Outside of 2 Carver Belk kneel downs at the end of the game, the Bears offense had a total of 3 negative plays. 2 short rushes for a loss, and then a false start penalty. That's it for the whole game. Just positive play after positive play after positive play. And I think that's a good sign for this offense, and that's something that they need to continue to do. As we head in the playoffs, we aren't a big play type of offense. Yeah, every once in a while we'll get a 70-yard touchdown run from Andy Henson like we did Friday.
74.
Yeah, I know. I was just rounding. But so I guess, yeah, we just need to continue doing that, stringing together positive play after positive play, and then make it count in the red zone to get into the end zone.
So you're telling me West Branch played an entire football game with 1 offensive penalty?
According to my notes here, we had 4 penalties for 50 yards. We had a false start, we had a pass interference, we had a face mask, and we had an unsportsmanlike conduct on a kick return.
Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you the last time, but a team played a high school football game with only 1 penalty on its offense, and it was not a holding penalty.
Right.
There's
holding on every play.
There is. It just doesn't always get called. But if you can replicate that performance on the stat sheet,
right,
probably going to look good as we get forward. But 28-12 was the final, Matt. How did we get there?
So we'll start on the Beavers' first drive of the game. They got the ball first. They drive it down into West Branch territory, but kind of, as I mentioned earlier, a key fourth down stop and also a key interception. Holden Arneman intercepts an Ormsby pass. Bears take over at the 16, take it all the way down the field, as Steven said, for an 8-play, 84-yard scoring drive, capped off by an Andy Henson 4-yard touchdown run. PAT was no good. Bears lead 6-0. After a couple change of possessions in the second quarter, the Bears get the ball back on their own 26, and Andy Henson breaks loose for a 74-yard touchdown run. They go for 2 to try and make it a 14-point game, and they are successful on a Carver-Belk run. Beavers get back into the game on their next drive with a short touchdown run from Ormsby. 2-point conversion is no good. 14-6 Bears at the end of the first half. On the Bears' first drive of the second half, Carver-Belk finds a wide-open Cash Woody for a 44-yard completion down to the 4-yard line. Stephen Grace, that was kind of a fun play. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it was the fake bubble, and Carver had an excellent play fake with his shoulders. I mean, he really sold that he was throwing on the bubble route, I think, to Peyton underneath. And you had outside linebacker, corner, safety, all three that just started sprinting up towards the line of scrimmage, trying to get to Peyton. And suddenly you see Cash Woody just streak down that near sideline. And Carver just lofted it. Cash ran right under it, got it into his arms. And fortunately for Wilton, unfortunately for Cash Woody, Caden Kirkman with that 6'8 frame was able to get a good angle and chased Cash down and brought him down just inside the 5-yard line. Otherwise, it would have been about a 50-yard touchdown. But yeah, just well drawn up play and perfectly executed by everybody, but especially Cash just getting open and Carver making that play fake, getting everybody to bite on Peyton Miller.
Yeah, so on the next play, first and goal, Andy Henson gets into the end zone for his third touchdown of the night and his second one of 4 yards. Netherlands PAT is good, 21-6 West Branch early third quarter. Jumping to the early part of the fourth, the Beavers pull within 9 on a short touchdown run from Ormsby, 21-12 West Branch. But then, West Branch kind of puts it away after that on their next drive with an 11-play, 70-yard drive finished off by Andy Henson's fourth touchdown run, this time a 19-yard run.
Is that good? 4 touchdowns? That seems kind of good. 4 touchdowns in a game.
Yeah, I'd take that every week.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what they call in track. That would be called a PR, and it was for his rushing yards as well.
So that, I mean, I want to talk about that drive for a second because that drive had 2 big third down conversions on passes from Carver-Belk. One of them to Holden Arneman, and then the second one to Brady Hunger. Kind of a fun play that Brady talked about with Jared Tiley on after the game. So check out Brady's interview on westbranch.football for that. 28-12 West Branch at that point. And, if the game wasn't already in hand for West Branch, Cash Woody kind of seals the deal with an interception near midfield, my pick to click. 2 kneel downs later, and the Bears win 28-12.
That is a nice score. Anytime you're on, when the Bears are on the top of the scoreboard, we feel pretty good about it here on the podcast and in the webcast and in the community for that matter. But as Matt said, talked about some of those key plays, and you hear these names that we don't hear often. You hear big plays on big drives coming from, they're not from an Andy Henson, who you're going to hear about a lot, or a Carver-Belk, who you're going to hear about a lot. You're hearing from Brady Hunger, one of the unsung heroes, maybe his second or third reception on the entire season, and Holden Arneman making a sophomore, making a big catch at a big time.
Well, I think that's probably one of the key things for this team, guys, is, Coach has talked about it a lot this week, especially, you've got a group of guys that really don't care who gets their name in the paper. They don't care who gets their name in the stat sheet. They want to work together as 11 guys or 25 guys or however many on the squad and do what's best for West Branch football and this team. And so they don't care if Andy's the one that has got the hot hand and he gets 240 yards rushing in the night. You know what? This week, it might be something where Peyton or Brady Hunger or Reese Trepania, somebody gets a hot hand receiving-wise, and they're the ones that go off. Andy won't care. He'll be perfectly fine saying, you know what? We're getting points on the board. We're winning. That's all that matters. And so, I mean, it's a really unselfish group that really is team-focused, team-oriented, and, they just are finding ways to mesh and work well together, and it's just great to see that progress as the season has gone on.
When there are two guys I want to point out specifically. I feel like we've talked about it every week the past few weeks, but Kinnick Belk, his blocking ability on offense for kind of a wingback receiver type of position is awesome, especially for the kind of kid his size. He's not a huge, muscular, 250-pound kind of guy, but he's blocking and allowing those throwouts to Peyton Miller, Andy Henson rushes around the end, all that kind of stuff, making those things happen. There was one specifically on Andy's 19-yard touchdown run there in the fourth, I think it was, where Kinnick was on the left edge. He sealed that left side of the line, and I think Wyatt Federland was maybe out there too, leading Andy, and those two just made a really nice cutback lane for Andy to go into the end zone to get that touchdown. But then Kinnick on defense too, his tackling is phenomenal. He rarely misses one. He's always there making plays. And then another shout out to Cale Seidel. He had the pleasure of taking on Kirkman all night, who's a foot taller than him, probably
at least, maybe
literally
inches.
A foot taller. And there were 2 or 3 plays to where Hornsby just kind of threw it up to Kirkman because that's typically gonna work. And one of them, Kirkman had to make a heck of a catch to outmuscle Cale, who had incredible positioning on that ball. I don't know how Kirkman came down with it. It almost seemed like a tie. They both caught it.
Tie goes to the offense.
I know. But then there was another one too, I think, headed towards the north end zone that Cale was defending Kirkman. And again, just right there, perfect coverage. You can't ask for anything more. And it's just incredible coming from a kid who's 5'7", maybe? Yeah. 160, 70 pounds.
You know what's special about him, though, Jay Bird?
What's that?
He's a wrestler.
He is a wrestler. We could talk about another part of the game where he showed a little wrestling savvy, but we won't get into that. That's not germane to the importance of the scoreboard and the gameplay per se. So here, you talked about Kinnick, Matt. You kind of touched upon it defensively, but he had the assignment of holding off the edge many, many times. I think at minimum 5 times, you got that guy going one-on-one against that bowling ball that's going down the alleyway. Trying to get to the second level of defense bowling ball known as Jackson Hole, and he's one-on-one and made 5 tackles at least of his 11 on the outside. And if he doesn't make those tackles, that who knows how far he would have gone down the sideline.
It could be a different story.
Could be a completely different story. I'm sure his bell was ringing a little bit on some of those, but he kept going, stepped right back into the bull ring and kept trying again. And that's all you can ask. And that's the kind of savvy and just, determination that you ask for out of a football player. So statistically speaking, you look at the total offense. West Branch came out of that game with a total offensive performance of 382 yards. Wilton has 250 if you look at their stat page on Iowa Varsity Bound. Our stats officially say 230 home stats.
I had 232, so I side with our guys.
So we'll go with 231 to take it up. But at any rate, you got that the Bears completely dominated it. And then you look at the time of possession, I'm thinking, okay, maybe that played a role. But oh no, Wilton actually had the football 6 minutes longer than West Branch did on Friday night. So I think Matt really made a point early on in the podcast here, talking about how the Bears made the most of every time they touched the football. Not one punt. I can't remember the last time the Bears played a football game and they didn't have to punt.
Well, and to flip that around, we talked about what West Branch did. You look at Wilton's drives, interception, punt, turnover on downs, touchdown, punt, touchdown, interception. Again, 7 possessions. They had 2 turnovers and a turnover on downs, 2 punts. So, makes a big difference right there.
It does. And on the scoreboard, the difference was West Branch getting more points. And with that 28-12 victory, boys, that means there's more football to be played. And we will get to who the Bears will play next in just a little bit. Other scores around the district, Matt. I know there was a very high-scoring game at Mediapolis on Friday.
Yeah, L&M Minneapolis. As we've talked about, L&M had essentially forfeited the rest of the season. So Minneapolis gets the credit in the win column there. So and then the only other district game going on, Durant and Regina. Kind of one that had a lot of, I think Wilton was kind of watching that one very closely as well.
Yeah,
from a points perspective type of thing. But yeah, Regina came out victorious in that one, 34-16.
It was a battle through. At one point, it was 20-9 or 20-8. Then it was 27-16, and then Regina got a late touchdown to put it really out of reach at 34-16. And by doing that, they put the playoff perspective out of reach for Wilton with their loss to West Branch.
Yeah, so Regina finished 5-0 in the district in first, West Branch second at 4-1, Mediapolis in third at 2-3, Durant in technically fourth at 2-3, Wilton in fifth at 2-3, and L&M at 0-5 in last. So somebody explained to me how the whole point differential stuff went down Friday, and how Wilton went from playing for second to being out.
Well, we kind of explained that last week a little bit, didn't we, Matt and Steven? Really quickly, a little side note here. I'm sure that the folks in Wilton are disappointed they didn't make it, that they are 5-3 overall, and Durant finished the season at 2-6 overall, and they beat Durant, and they didn't make it. I do believe West Branch had a similar scenario earlier, about 15 years ago, to where they finished 8-1 and defeated the team that won the tiebreaker, 3-team tiebreaker. But that's the way the rules are played out there. But to explain the 17-point rule, it's this. In the event of a tie, which we had one on Friday night, after Friday, we had a 3-way tie in district standings, district games only, between Wilton, Durant, and Mediapolis, all finished with 2 district wins. They will go to the 17-point rule, 17-point differential rule. 17 would be your max score for 5 district games. -17 would be your worst possible score for those 5 games. If you win by 1 point, you get 1 point toward your differential. If you lose by 1 point, you lose 1 point toward your total differential. Well, West Branch won by 16 on Friday. So basically take all 5 games, how much you won by, and then subtract how much you lost by, and that's how you come up with the differential. And unfortunately for Wilton, when they lost, they just lost a lot. They lost by 49 points to Mediapolis, which goes for 17. They lose by 16 to West Branch. Whereas Durant only lost, they had some close games with these teams, and they beat Minneapolis. So that's a long-winded explanation, but all told, Stephen, it came out the way the rules are set up.
Yeah, and the other hard piece of that doesn't help Wilton any is when it's a 3-way tie. You can't really say, well, let's do this tiebreaker and then go back to other. The first tiebreaker is head-to-head. And so if, say, Wilton had beat Mediapolis and Durant, but then lost to everybody else, they would have had the tiebreaker because they had beat the 2 teams that they tied with. But since Wilton beat Durant, Durant beat Meepo beat Wilton, then the next tiebreaker from there, they go down to that point differential. And so then they just base it off of that. So
yeah, and it was close. Mediapolis had a positive 0.6, Durant had a -1, and Wilton had a -6.2.
And that's just unfortunate for Wilton. They had a good, strong start, a good season, And don't hang your head, Beavers. You've got a lot of strong football players returning. And I can tell you this, the train is coming from down below on those younger grades. They have some very, very big and very talented players in the 8th grade class and the freshman class that are on their way.
Well, they had, 4 or 5 freshmen that played Friday night?
Yeah.
And not just, hey, we're out there to be on a kick return just as a blocker. I mean, their 3 main kick returners, the guys that get the ball, were freshmen, and backup running back was a freshman.
This is a team that they call it, you're on the come up. They are just that. Coach Ryan Hetzler is a good, really truly is one of the good guys in the high school coaching field in Eastern Iowa and all over the state. I'm sure he's disappointed, but if he looks here in a week, the sun's going to rise, and next season, look out for Wilton. They're going to be right there in the mix. So before we get to talking about week number 9, let's take a break and hear from a sponsor.
Main Street Sweets is your hometown sandwich and ice cream shop, located in the heart of downtown West Branch, between the Serving Cafe and Touched by Power. Main Street Sweets offers great burgers, tenderloins, cheese balls, and more. And don't forget the ice cream. Main Street Sweets, locally owned and operated by my wife Jessica and me, where we're always proud to support our hometown.
Matt had it set up for over-under final results is what we're going to talk about next. We've hinted at it throughout the year, throughout each program, each week, and Matt had it tallied up through last week, and now he's got it fully tallied, and I'm sure he's going to want to tell you all about it. Steven and I probably aren't going to want to listen. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so we had a few categories that we were somewhat close on and needed some things to happen Friday in order for some overs to hit or for some unders to stay. So for our first category, 223.5 points scored in the regular season, ended at 209. So 14.5 short. Jason and Steven, you had the over and I had the under. So tally 1 for me there. Over under 127.5 points allowed. Bears defense 102, which is, what is that? 102 divided by 8. 12, almost 13 points a game. That's pretty good, I'd say.
I'd take that, yeah.
That's less than the 16 and a
You go
half or whatever last season.
12.75 points over in next, if that were possible, next Friday, I'd take it. Go 13 points right now and not play the other team not play the game. I got a feeling West Branch will win because, well, then there'd be no defense.
Yeah.
But
so Jason, Steven, you both had the over on that one, and I had the under. Over under Andy Henson, 935.5 rushing yards. He got that. 1108 on the season. So blew that over out of the water. We all had the over there. Over under 1.5 non-quarterback pass attempts. We eclipsed that one last week. 3 for the season. And we all had the over there. Over under 10.5 interceptions. Had 2 of them. I think we needed 4. Yeah, we needed 5 going into 4, 5. Yeah, I think it was 5. Well, 5 to hit the over. Going into Friday, we got 2 of them. We got half of them. So Jason, you had the over there. Steven and I had the under. Then over under 1.5 special teams touchdowns. Still just that one opening kickoff Mac Valley. Hey, I got it right this time. We all had the over there. That's a hard one to predict because things kind of have to go just right.
Well, you look at, Friday night Wilton, not a strong kicking game, so they were, kicking it short. We were just falling on it. So we didn't even really have a chance for a kick return. I mean, we had a chance for a punt return, but there's a lot of other factors that go into it there.
Yep. So totals here, Jason, you got correct on 2 of them. Steven, you had 3, and I had 5.
In our defense, Steven, if you look at our choices on the majority of them, we chose on the side of optimism on most of the categories.
Don't play that card.
Oh, I played it. Matt was more pessimistic.
No.
You know what?
I'm just
the Bears
being
are
realistic.
going to the playoffs. Oh, you're realistic. Yeah, fun hater. Yeah. But congratulations, Matt. Tell him what he won,
Oh,
Stephen.
thanks. Yeah. Win a lot.
You get the chance to say that you won.
Yay.
Yep. Let's move on to round 1, which is week 9. Matt, Stephen alluded to the words week 9 earlier in the program. Well, it is now week 9, which is normally the final game of the regular season. In 2021, the powers that be said this is going to be the first round of the postseason. And the Bears
For the small classes.
For the smaller classes, 2A, 1A, and A, 3A, 4A, 5A, and I don't really care about the other ones. I'm in 1A, and I'm staying there. So, but for them, good luck. Have a great regular season finale. We're going to go into the postseason this week. And the postseason begins in West Branch. Woohoo! Another home game at Matt. Go ahead and give the
It's Butch Peterson Field at the Little Rose Bowl on Oliphant Street in historic downtown West Branch.
Sponsored by somebody? No?
Nope.
Okay, no.
Nope.
Okay. But that's where the game's going to be on Friday. And the opponent? The Cardinal Comets from Eldon, Iowa. Cardinal, Iowa, I've heard before too, but it's the same. It's the same school. Same team. 5-3 overall on the season. They finished their district season at 2-3. They started strong, fellas. 5 consecutive wins. They can put up a lot of yards in a lot of ways in a hurry. Unfortunately, when they saw the Sigourney Keota, the Pella Christians, and perennial powerful team, Pleasantville, West Branch knows them well. It's never beat them in the playoffs, but let's not go into that. They lost their final 3 games of the season, but they still limp right into the 3rd spot, and they get to play West Branch. Probably a team that they look at and say, hey, well, they've lost 2 games this year. Maybe this is the year we get West Branch, and it could very well be. And if they do that, gentlemen, all it takes is a quick look at the stat sheet, and Maddox Jones is probably going to be the player to make whatever happen on Friday night in West Branch for the Comets, Stephen.
He had 760 yards passing this year in 2 games alone.
Yeah.
That's kind of good. He had 437 against Davis County. He had 324 against Sigourney Keota. He's a tall, athletic, mobile quarterback. He's got a good arm, good vision. He's got some good receivers that he's throwing to, in particular, Griffin Griner. But yeah, I just watching a little bit of their film just to get an idea of what they do. And this may hurt some people, but kind of reminds me a little bit of the Purdue Boilermakers, just in terms of they put a lot of pressure on you. You got to get your defensive front to be able to get some pressure on the quarterback, but they don't give you time to get that pressure. I mean, they try to get the ball out pretty quick. And so they do a lot of different things. They've got, like I said, some talented receivers, and it's going to be really key for our front guys to be able to get some pressure, get there quick, and make Jones just a little bit more uncomfortable in what he's trying to do.
And you watch this kid, you watch him, and he's really calm, really cool under the collar when he's in the pocket. He doesn't make many mistakes. I mean, as noted when you look at his statistics, 22 touchdowns on the season versus 4 interceptions. So for every 1 interception, he's throwing 5 touchdowns, Matt.
Yeah, just phenomenal. And he's also, he's got some skills on the ground too. He's the team's 3rd leading rusher, 240 yards on the season. I mean, that doesn't sound like much, but
hang on just a second. It's been updated. He's got 342 yards on the season.
Yeah, he went off for like 110 on Friday night.
Yeah,
they just got him updated.
Okay, I thought I was looking at updated ones, but okay. Well, yeah, 300, whatever you said. And for a quarterback, that's really good. That's what you would call a weapon. For a kid that can throw for 1,700 yards in the air and run for over 300 on the ground in just 8 games, that's a playmaker, I'll say. But, just generally speaking, I am not exactly sure what to think of this team, to be quite honest. They've had quite the interesting schedule, as you mentioned, Jason. Some extreme highs and some extreme lows. The first 3 games of their season, so the non-district portion of their schedule, against ultimately speaking, an 0-8 Pekin, an 0-8 Central Lee, and a 4-4 Davis County. So not exactly the toughest competition in those non-district games, but I mean they took care of business. They scored nearly 60 points per game. The next two to kick off their district schedule against Central Lee and Van Buren, under 500 teams for the whole season. They come out of that first 5 games undefeated at 5-0, but things were about to flip. The next two against Sigourney Keota and Pella Christian, who are both top 10 teams in Class 1A. Those games weren't even close. Final game against Pleasantville, who's just a good, solid team. Pleasantville won that one. By 1 point? And Pleasantville needed that one to get into the playoffs, I think. So, I'm not sure. They've got those skill positions as we talked about with Maddox Jones, Griffin Griner, Ian Lyles, but I just can't quite put my finger on what their trouble was in these last 3 games, other than playing really good teams. But that's what you're going to face in the playoffs, are really good teams to the caliber of Sigourney Keota and Pella Christian. So I'm interested to hear about the game Friday and watch it back eventually to see what West Branch can do.
When you look at the numbers, at strictly the scoring numbers from offense and defense, on the season, West Branch is giving up 26 points, or is scoring 26 points and giving up just shy of 13. Both of those rank in the top 18 of all 48 schools in Class 1A. You look at Eldon, Iowa, whichever one you want to say. They are 4th in the entire class, averaging 41 points per game. They are 32nd, which is in the bottom 2/3 of this class in scoring defense. They've given up 26 points per game. Now, a couple of those were against 2 of the better teams in the entire class, and Sigourney Keota put up 50 and Pella Christian put up 52. But take that away. This team could put up points. They can do it quickly. And as I said before, they're going to do it in numerous ways. I mean, they're average, 1,700, Steve? 1,702 passing yards? That's 200 and
I've got
12?
them for 220 yards through the air and 150 yards on the ground.
There you go. 370 yards of total offense. I'm betting that probably almost trumps West Branch by 60 to 80 yards.
Jay,
on a game. Yes.
63.5 points, over under.
Oh,
combined.
Over under on this game?
Yeah, what's the over? 63.5, over under.
Oh, under. If it's over, West Branch loses the football game. If they're if a team scores 35, 42 points on you, I don't care who you are, you should lose. You're probably going to lose a football game. Then it's not the NCAA, unfortunately, where you've got teams that are putting up 51.
Big 12.
The Big 12, they don't care. They're okay. I'm going to score 50. We're going to give up 40, and we don't care. They've got multiple playmakers. But Class 1A football in Eastern Iowa, it doesn't quite work that way.
Hey, Jay Bird, I've got us for 255 yards per game, 189 on the ground and 66 through the air.
So you're looking at about 120-yard differential. Does that sound about right, Stephen?
Yep.
Well, that is a storyline right there. West Branch's defense obviously has been its calling card. They've been the lunch pail crew for West Branch against the very, very high-powered Cardinal Comet offense. That is the storyline. Whoever comes up, if whichever unit has the advantage on Friday, be it 5%, 10%, or more, that is the team that's going to be victorious on Friday. It's going to be a fun game, gents. I'm excited just for some postseason football again, in West Branch, and I think it's going to be one of those games that people are going to talk about for a while, because Cardinal could put some points up. West Branch doesn't like giving them up.
This Comet team, they are chock full of seniors. And I am sure that after losing the last 3 games, they don't want to lose a 4th one to end their season in West Branch Friday night. So I expect them to come out hungry, come out prepared. Gonna be a tough game.
I know, Matt, you're a computer guy. You love this programming and all this stuff. That BC Moore fella who doesn't have all that, he's wrong a lot, but just for fun, he thinks this game is going to be, see, West Branch is at 133.54. Let me try that again. West Branch is at 147.07, Cardinal 144.58. So he thinks West Branch is about a 3-point favorite, which, correct me if I'm wrong in the gambling circles, because I know you guys are big time Vegas guys. A 3-point favorite is basically a home field advantage.
Well, we don't play games on paper.
But we don't play games on paper, and we're looking forward to seeing it on the hallowed grounds of all those
Field.
Butch Peterson Field at the Little Rose
Bowl
on Oliphant Street
in
downtown
historic
West Branch, sponsored by Main Street Suites.
You'd think that our hometown PA announcer would have that just rolling off of his tongue every time, but
Portlets.
Portlets are more important, and you got to announce 173 names on a Friday night. I kind of lost track of what I was wanting to say a lot of times, so just getting my voice back from it too.
Get in the game with the mobile app from Fidelity Bank and Trust. Do your banking during the game without missing a play. Learn more at bankfidelity.bank. Fidelity Bank and Trust, your hometown bank and proud supporter of the West Branch Bears. Member FDIC.
Picks to click. And boy, are we excited for week 9. The postseason means it's a fresh slate. All of our one-timers, if you've chosen one or you haven't, you can choose them this week. And any continuing weeks beyond, well, they only get them one time in the playoffs. No, they're available for every week.
Yeah, everything's out the window, yeah.
It's like Christmas come early. Speaking of Christmas coming early, Matt, tell us all about last week and how well you did.
He got the over-unders. He got week 8 picks to click. He's on a roll.
I'm on a roll.
I'm sure the Vikings are going to win this week in overtime or something crazy.
Yeah, they've done that a lot already this year. I mean, they're an overtime team. All right, Matt, doesn't want to talk about it. Let's go on.
I wish they could just win one convincingly. Well, I guess I had that one against Seattle. That wasn't really close, but anyway, West Branch. Jason, you had Cole Bailey.
Yes.
Yeah, good game.
Hey, he led the way for 2 of those 4 touchdowns. Like, he was the pulling guard, so that's pretty good.
That's 2 touchdowns.
Well, my guy Cash Woody had long reception and game-sealing interception, so I'll take that. Probably a couple nice tackles too. I love what he does. Jared talks about this too on the Bearcast, but I think everyone's really impressed what he's been able to do from his safety position. Steven, you had Drake Berry.
He wears number 77, so that's just,
it's a great number, Steve.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. That's part of my Wi-Fi password.
There you go. See?
It might be part of mine too. Well, at least one of those numbers is in there.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So how about this week? I am first, and I'm going back to the well. Wyatt Fedolin.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Good.
Enough said.
Stephen Grace.
I'm going to go back to my week 2. I'm going to go with Brady Hunger. I think it's going to be a key game defensively that, those linebackers especially are going to have to make sure that they're either helping get some pressure or they're helping cover some of those underneath routes and making sure that Cardinal's not getting some of those big plays. And so I think Brady's going to be a guy that's going to make some noise and do some good things. And who knows, maybe he'll sneak into the end zone for a passing reception too.
Jason Miller.
It's a tough choice, but I'm going to go with, what's his name? Oh, shoot. He has oh, darn it.
Is his name written on the bottom of a toy cowboy?
Andy Henson. It was. Matt read my mind. He already had Andy Henson typed in. I'm going to go with Andy Henson. And yeah, he's going to get the ball a lot, but when you've got a versatile and a dual threat kind of quarterback, those guys on the outside, Stephen, play a big role. Brady Hunger, Andy Henson. We've got the bookends covered. And Wyatt's in the middle to help out along. He's an outside guy too. Those are going to be big players. Why? Matt took him because, he's not superstitious. But he's going to play, his foot is going to play a big role with the special teams. But little did he know, these three guys right there, along with Cole Bailey, of course, plugging up the middle, but those three guys that we chose against a versatile quarterback like that he is, are going to have to, out there on the flats, they are going to play big. And the Bears are going to need that. When you're looking at the offensive numbers that we've talked about, 150 yards rushing, 220 yards passing a game, we could have chosen the two big guys out on the outside too. And big guys named Holden Arneman. And that guy who has really, really played well each and every week since he's been slotted out there, Cale Seidel.
If Wyatt gets another tackle on the referee, I think I automatically win.
Right. Well,
that was definitely PI on the ref.
Yes.
It was. I can't believe it. I mean, he was in such, and the ref was in a good position to make the play too.
He was.
He didn't have to do anything.
In the best position to see the play too.
Yes. And boy, was he watching it. There's no doubt he was watching the ball and not the ball per se. So Wyatt Federline for Matt, Steven had Brady Hunger, I had Andy Henson, and we all have the Bears as our real pick to click, and we sure hope they do. Wrapping things up, Steven, I know you do it the best. Go right ahead.
Go to the website, find stuff, go to the internet. You can get us on social at WB Bears Football, search on Facebook. It's all out there. YouTube, find us with the Bearcat or the Talking Bear Football podcast. It's all on the internet, all at your fingertips.
And Matt, we got to say, we're getting to that nothing's guaranteed after this week time of the year. So since the program is coming to an end over the next, in about 5 weeks, we want to make sure that the people that help make this possible get a big kudo as well.
Yeah, huge thanks to, of course, Browns West Branch, Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, and West Branch Ford for their sponsorship of the podcast here and the Bearcast all season long. Also, a big thank you to Cornerstone Real Estate Consultants, EMS Detergent Services, Fidelity Bank and Trust, member FDIC, the Full Wider Insurance Agency, Hodge Construction, the Hoover Presidential Foundation, Main Street Suites and the Cheese Balls, Marcy Willier with Urban Acres Real Estate, Touch by Power Massage Therapy, and of course the West Branch Times.
Kickoff Friday is at 7 p.m. at the Little Rose Bowl. On your calendar, that is October the Double Deuce, 22nd. The Bearcast pregame starts at 6:30. How'd I do with my cadence there, Steven? Okay?
Perfect.
I'm just trying to follow the best. It's going to be exciting. Let's flip a coin. Hold on, I'm looking at it. Matt, give us a little pep talk.
Oh, man, I am not good with these, and you know that.
Well, how about Steven? Give us a good pep talk.
You know what? I've said it before to these guys, and I'll probably say it again as we keep going. Kind of like I alluded to earlier. We are an unselfish team. The T-shirts that we made for this season and that we also have for the playoffs, Rise as one, win together. That's what it is, boys. You just got to continue to rise up. And if you do have something where you get knocked down, go pick your brother up, get back after it the next play, and just work together. Make it look like 11 guys working in unison as one unit out there. You're one football team. You do that every single play, and good things are going to happen.
It's the Talking Bear Football Podcast.
Right here on westbranch.football.
Presented by the Browns West Branch family of dealerships.
And until next Sunday, or whenever this gets on your chosen podcasts, airwave or on the YouTube, we ask you to take care, everyone.